Yeah, welcome to the podcast. Life ain't fair. Wait, anyway. You know what I mean. We're here to lift you up.
If you've ever had a moment where you said, "Why me, Lord?" or "This can't be my life," this podcast is for you. Dr. Tabitha Bellamy is originally from Vallejo, California. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Howard University, a Master's of Art in Biology Education from the George Washington University, and PhD in Educational Psychology with a concentration in psychometrics. You are winning.
I was raised in extreme chaos, very highly volatile and abusive home. I actually moved 13 times. He also molested me. I've looked back over my life and there have been many times where I'm like, this is just not fair. But God is going to hear me and God is going to do these things for me. All of a sudden, the marriage just starts unraveling a little bit at a time. And I'm like, what's happening here, honey? What's going on?
Wait, take your life in another direction.
Yeah, he wanted to take his life in another direction with someone else.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life Ain't Fair. Win Anyway, the podcast of people and stories from myself and my guests who've gone through some challenging times, but we have come out as winners. I am your host, Tijuana TJ Everhart, and I'm so super excited to kick off the podcast, and I am kicking it off with Dr. Tabitha Bellamy. And so before we get started, before you start talking, let me just tell the people about your greatness, because they need to hear the greatness first before they hear about the times, because I'm sure you're here to tell us when life was unfair, honey. Like, if you've ever had a moment, podcast listeners, if you've ever had a moment where you said, "Why me, Lord?" or "This can't be my life," or "I can't believe this is happening to me," or "Every time I turn around, something is happening. If it ain't one thing, it's another." That's what my grandmama used to say, bless her heart. But if you've ever said that, this podcast is for you. So we're going to have a great conversation today, but let me tell you about my guest, and then we're going to talk it through. So Dr. Tabitha Bellamy is originally from Vallejo, California. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Howard University, a Master's of Art in Biology Education from the George Washington University, and a Master's of Art and PhD in Educational Psychology with a concentration in psychometrics at the University of Georgia. She currently oversees the national and international assessment programs for the state of New Jersey under the direction of the National Center of Education Statistics. Dr. Bellamy's passion for service to the community led her to become a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Yes, I said it like that and I meant it.
That's right.
Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Dr. Bellamy is president of the National Consortium of State and Educational Research Associations, as well as the Northeastern Educational Research Association. She is the proud mother of two brilliantly positive and productive young adults, Malik Jr. and Maria. In her spare time, she enjoys working on her small hair care line, Hazel's Hair Honey, crafting, international travel, and pretending to be a chef on the Food Network. Everybody, let's welcome Dr. Tab. Welcome, girl, to the podcast, Life Ain't Fair. Win Anyway. I'm so happy to have you.
I forgot to add that I also am a low-rate comedian in my own right?
You are absolutely right. So let me tell everybody, this girl cracks me up. So Dr. Tab and I are members of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We just had a Founders Day. So we're in a Facebook group together. This is how I met Dr. Tab. And this girl literally cracks me up with the stuff that she says. It's unreal. Like, sometimes I forget that you have a PhD and 25 other degrees because, sometimes
Sometimes I forget too, so you're not alone. Yeah.
So I'm so happy to have you. I really am. And I'm glad we can laugh, right? Like,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
people just don't understand. The Bible tells us that laughter does good like a medicine.
Yep.
And so Dr. Tab is certainly hilarious in her own little way. So welcome, girl. Welcome. Where are you right now? I know you're from California.
Yes, I am, but currently I live in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. This is actually my 17th year living here. So I'll talk a little bit about that during the podcast and what led me here. And that's a part of my life ain't fair, but I've learned to make the most of it. And I have been here for 17 years and created a life that I've come to love. Oh, so Lawrenceville, outside of Princeton. I'm about 3 miles away from Princeton, New Jersey, to where the university is.
A long way from California, though.
Yeah, long way from home. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did you get to Howard?
Okay, so glad you asked. I had a very rough childhood. My birth father is a pastor, was a pastor, still is. He is a Vietnam vet. Was later in life diagnosed as bipolar schizophrenic. So that meant that I was raised in extreme chaos, very highly volatile and abusive home. So I actually moved 13 times from the age of birth until I think I stopped moving when I was 14. So I was the new kid in school I counted on my hands one time. I was a new kid in school 9 times from kindergarten until 12th grade. So that's why people are always like, you're really easy to get along with. That's because when you're consistently the new kid in school, you have to have a great personality because you cannot afford to come in as a new kid, especially in the middle of a school year and not be nice, not be friendly, not smile at everybody, or I literally would have had no friends. So I moved a lot. Like I said, extreme violence, domestic violence. My father had auditory hallucinations. He'd have visual hallucinations, just all kind of things. He was just a very, very abusive person and a pastor. So it was just a crazy life. The no going to dances, couldn't celebrate Halloween. We couldn't watch regular cartoons on TV because everything was of the devil. Everything was, you can't listen to this. You can't do this. You can't play cards. You can't go to the movies. You can't do anything, right? Because you're ever going to hell for breathing too hard, essentially. You can't have a boyfriend. You can't have a girlfriend. You can't do anything. And he also molested me. And I did not feel comfortable to tell anybody because he was so abusive and he was a pastor and I just felt trapped. And so the closer I got to being 18 and a legal adult, I finally didn't tell people what exactly was going on in the home. I just started talking to my high school counselor and I said, my father said I have to go to school in California and I have to be a commuter. And she said, no, you don't. You're 18. You're an adult. You can go anywhere you want to go. And she said, you just have to pay for it, but they can't stop you from going. And so at that time, my uncle, who was my mother's sister's husband, became the dean at the chapel at Howard University. Okay. And so we went out as a family to visit as he was installed, and I fell in love with that school. I already loved him very much because he's my uncle and I just thought he was fantastic. And I was like, I really want to go to Howard. I really want to get away from my home. Can you help me? And he was like, yes. And so that's how I ended up on the East Coast. And then I met who was my husband later. He was visiting Howard. He was a Morehouse chapel assistant, and I was working in the chapel at Howard, of course, since my uncle was there. So I was the president of the chapel ushers at Howard University Andrew Rankin Memorial Chapel. So I met my then husband. He was also a college student. He was visiting from Morehouse. I met him one Sunday. We were feeling each other and exchanged phone numbers and kind of were in that long distance calling card relationship.
Calling card. You turn our age.
Going to Texaco, getting the calling cards, for $10, talking as long as we cut us off. And we did that for a few years until we got married. And then we lived in DC. And, I've just been on the East Coast ever since.
Okay. So Howard, a Bison, HBCU girly. So awesome, from California. What the heck is psychometrics?
Glad you asked that question. I'm actually doing career day at my children's former high school tomorrow for the 12th year in a row. I do a talk called Psychometrician in Your Neighborhood because there are actually less than 1% of Black women in the world who have PhDs in psychometrics. So long story short, psychometrics is using a combination of psychology and metrics, which is statistics, to measure how people think. So we are the creators of assessments. So any assessment that you take, like SAT, PSAT, GRE, GMAT, psychometricians even work on driver's tests for every state, statewide assessment programs for all 50 states that have statewide assessments, personality tests that you have to take at jobs that require value judgments, even things like for you to get a fishing license, any type of assessment. So anything that requires a measurement of how people think that requires psychometricians. So that's what we do.
That's interesting. Wonder where that came from in your head. Like, who thinks of? That's why I tell people it's amazing what God gives other people, because I could care less about any of that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And that's why people need to operate in the gift that's in, because baby, I don't care. Can you pass it or can you fail it?
Right. And there's so much math that undergirds it.
Oh,
a lot of math. And it's really important that we do have people who represent diverse backgrounds behind that, because that makes sure that when people are taking the test, that they are fair tests, because there is so much math behind it. And there's math too. There's like an equation for every single type of test question to make sure that it's not unfairly biased towards a specific ethnic group or a gender group, or, bias against certain groups. So yeah, I could talk about it all day because it's my passion. But
I see. So, okay. So people see you, they see Dr. Tab. It's psychometrics, PhD, 2 master's degrees.
2 master's degrees.
Yeah, bachelor's, 2 master's degrees, PhD, the president of the association, 1% of the Black, you are winning. You got 2 beautiful kids and they're off in college, and one is off in college. She's a cheerleader. I know all these things. And
Yes.
Malik he's doing his work.
Yeah, he's out working and yeah.
I know, making good money. So things are looking wonderful. So people look at you now and they see the great things you're doing. They see the laughter. They see the jokes. But what do they not see or not know? What is that time in your life? Because you mentioned a couple of things when you said, just in your talking how you got to Howard, one thing that resonated with me was I too grew up in a home of domestic violence, a very abusive home. And so now peace matters to me above everything.
Yes.
Like everything in my house has to be peaceful. My friendships have to be peaceful.
Yeah.
I don't go back and forth with people because I grew up in a home of chaos.
Yeah.
I grew up in chaos. So now I have to have peace. So what was that time in your life when you felt like life was so unfair? Like those moments, because I know I had them where you just cried. I couldn't see the end. So
and
what was that for you?
For me, it wasn't just one. And I thought about this when you first invited me, and I was, just kind of thinking about what would I say, because I've been on a number of podcasts. I've written 2 books, shameful plug for myself. My first was a self-help book, and it's called Daily Devotionals for Survivors of Sexual Abuse. And it's a devotional book. It's a 6th grade reading level, so that it could be really accessible for people so that they could access the Bible verses and get the lessons and, write in it and really go through it and be blessed by the things that I was trying to share. And then the second book is called God's Gonna Make Me Rich. And it's more of a childhood memoir and talking about just growing up. And it's called God's Gonna Make Me Rich because that's kind of always was my father's thing, as his mental illnesses and his obsession with being a televangelist. So I grew up in the era of the Jimmy Swaggart and the Billy Graham and the Kenneth Copeland and the Fred Price and all these televangelists who were on TV. And so there were all these storefront churches popping up with all these people who also had these lofty goals of becoming televangelists at all costs, right? Even if it meant your children didn't have adequate food, or school clothes, or, all the things that I went without. And my brother, who's now deceased, went without, and the abuse that we may have gone through because of his delusions of grandeur that were shrouded in his mental abuse to become a televangelist. So I have gone through those things, and I've looked back over my life, and there have been many times where I'm like, this is just not fair. It's not okay. It's there've been times where I was a little kid and I'm standing in the free lunch. I'm like, this is not okay. Like, they're over there eating lunch that they brought in a lunch pail from home. I have to stand in this line when, they weren't as nice about free lunch when back in the day in the 80s, like they knew free lunch kids. They wouldn't come and stand in the free lunch, right? So like, poor kids, you stand over here. Like right now it's just lunch, right? And they don't make you bring a ticket. But back then it was like, you are poor, you stand here. You're not poor, you stand here. And I would be like, this is not fair because my dad's a pastor. So why are we poor? Right. And then it was like, when I would get older, I'm like, this is not fair. I have to play the piano for the church, and I'm a kid and I'm a teenager. Like, I don't want to play the piano for the church. I want to play outside. So there were just multiple times throughout my life where I would be like, this is not fair. And, but one of the things that I consistently saw as themes throughout my life was, even though I would say, this isn't fair, God, not talking to my parents, not talking to anybody else, I would say, God, this isn't fair. And I would just like be on the playground. I'm like, God, it's not fair. Like, I wanted a Cabbage Patch Kid. My father did not get me a Cabbage Patch Kid. He got 3 new suits, right? And I remember this is in first grade. In kindergarten, I prayed for that Cabbage Patch Kid every single night. And I'm like, I heard somebody say, if you pray and you believe and you say to this mountain, be removed, it's going to be removed, and God's going to, listen to your faith. I just kept praying for that Cabbage Patch Kid every single night. And I was 6 years old, and my mother's coworker brought a Cabbage Patch Kid to my house.
Oh, wow.
I said, I bought this for Tabitha. And I knew right then and there, I'm going to just pray to God. I don't care what these adults say, because in my mind, they're liars. They say stuff. They're not really going to do it. But if I just continue to pray to God while I'm outside playing, or I'm doing my chores, or I'm in my bed by myself at night, God is going to do these things for me. Not the parents. They be lying. But God is going to hear me, and God is going to do these things for me. And that was what I stood on as a 6-year-old. So when I was 12 years old, that's the first time my father came into my room at night. I said, God, when I am 18, get me out of here. And by the time I was 18, he had helped me get 3 jobs to pay for my own plane ticket, and for me to ship my own stuff, and for me to go to Howard. And then I got to Howard, and my father's like, we're not giving you any money. I don't care.
That's okay.
I'm going to pray, and God is going to help me graduate from Howard. And I'm going to pray, and God is going to help me get into graduate school. And that was a lesson I learned very early on. And that's been what sustained me. So there have been so many times where I'm like, this isn't fair. And going back to what you were asking about me being in New Jersey, fell in love. We were in Georgia in graduate school. My then husband, who's been my husband since I was 23 years old, comes to me and is like, God told me, he's a minister. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm going to be a good little minister's wife, even though I said I would never marry a minister. I lied to myself. And so he comes,
wait a minute.
One day
let's go. Wait, just stop right there. Why did you say you would never marry a minister?
Well, because of all the chaos I had endured with my father. And I was like, no, okay, never going to repeat this. I'm just going to marry somebody with a regular job. We're not going to church every Sunday. We're not doing this, right? I'm just going to church was used to like imprison me as a child. So I was like, not doing this. I'm just going to do God, right? But not all the church and the pomp and circumstance and the religiosity. But of course I fell in love, and I was like, okay, just kidding. I'm going to marry a minister. So we're in Georgia. We're going to grad school. He's a minister. And then he comes to me one day after church, and he's like, God wants me to go to Princeton Seminary. We're in Georgia.
Church.
Yeah. God wants me to go to Princeton Seminary. He wants us to move to New Jersey. Wants me to go to seminary, and wants me to be a pastor. And I was like, okay, because I don't really like the schools where we were living in Georgia. I'm from California. So in Georgia, I kind of felt like they didn't really like me that much anyway. So I was like, okay, it's okay. I'm okay to move. Yeah, 'cause I don't really fit in that good down here anyway. So yeah, I don't think they like me, so I'm okay. And I was like, that's fine. So we move up here. We've got the 2 kids. You know, he goes to seminary or whatever. He becomes a pastor. And I then again take on this role of support. I get over my PTSD of having to play the organ and piano at my father's church, which I hated because
PTSD?
Because my parents forced me to play and I hated it. And so we get to this church, and during Hurricane Sandy, which was a huge disaster in New Jersey, the church's main musician left. And I was like, well, my husband can't be a pastor with no musician, and I can play and be a good first lady. And so I overcame my PTSD. I took private lessons after I got off my real job as a psychometrician to support my spouse. So I'm like, we are killing it in the ministry. Okay. We are doing it. He is installed as the 13th pastor of a historic Baptist church. The Smithsonian comes out because it's a church that's aligned with descendants of the Revolutionary War, Black descendants of the Revolutionary War, and also free Black soldiers who fought in the Civil War. So it is a pillar of the Mercer County, New Jersey area. It's a very important church. So I'm like, we are doing it. Okay. We're living the dream. And then all of a sudden the marriage just starts unraveling a little bit at a time. And I'm like, what?
Not the pastor and the first lady.
What's happening here, honey? What are you talking about? You want to take your life in another direction? What's going on?
Wait, take your life in another direction?
Yeah, he wanted to take his life in another direction with someone else. And that is not something I talked about openly for a long time, because that was a point where I felt, again, this is really, really unfair. Really, really unfair, because I overcame a lot to once again re-engage with the ministry, to marry a minister, to then overcome my PTSD and start to play and be a musician, and to really just be present as not just a first lady, but an active partner in ministry, in a dream that was not my own, in a space that had been so hurtful to me because church had been used to imprison me as a child. And I just really had done so much to overcome all of the hurt and all of the damage that had been done to me in the name of Christ as a child, to be there and be present for him in that space as the things that I felt I was called to do as a godly wife and a godly woman. And so then to turn around and it'd be like, well, I'm going to go and be with someone else now. Good luck. It was just incredibly hard for me. And I was furious with God. I mean, I cussed God out a lot. Father God. Yeah, I did. And, I felt like, like I said, I've been born and raised in the church. I like to tell people I've been saved since I was a fetus. I've been Tremaine Hawkins' Love Alive youth choir of 1982. I've been in the church forever. And I always used to hear one of my uncles, who's now deceased, God rest his soul, Reverend James Bellamy. He had been through quite a few trials, and he was a dynamic preacher. And he used to talk a lot about the book of Job and how he said people used to come to Job and they would say, Job, people would be like, just curse God and die, just curse God and die. And that he would, that it didn't say he didn't curse God and die. It just said he didn't die, right?
He didn't die. We don't know.
But that he would question. And, and I took a lot of time, because as my marriage is falling apart, as my then husband just left, right? And I'm in a small town. I live in a very, very small town. People know me at the dry cleaner. They know me at the Starbucks. They know me at the sandwich shop. They knew me at the bagel shop. So when I say my husband left everybody knew my husband left. There was not a place I could go and people didn't know my husband left me. Like some people, you live in a big town, you have to tell people your husband left. People knew my husband left on the day my husband left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's because, I mean, I live in a little town and the neighbors are like, Malik took all his stuff. And yeah, it was like that. So I have to live in the town.
Were you embarrassed?
Humiliated. It's more like humiliated. Okay. And then I can't just pick up and leave because I have children and they live here. And also my parents are here because my family's from California. So I'm 3,000 miles away from my family and I have to just be here in the shame, in the pain, in the humiliation with my head, like, I guess high, right? Because I'm not going to put my head down and be embarrassed. I have to keep going, right? Yeah. So it was at that time where I reflected on even just a number of stories. It was the Bible. It was also thinking about my Nana. She's deceased, but she was a very strong woman of God. Her husband, who was my grandfather, left her. I don't know what this theme is. She had 6 kids at home and 4 in college. And I remember asking her, because she kept saying, their marriage not going to last. Oh, you are such a hater. Yes, it is. She, like, I see how he been acting lately. He ain't. I was like, no, he's just having a bad patch. She was like, he up to something. He's going to leave. And she said that a whole year and a half before he left, right? So she told me, you need to lose weight. You need to stop going out the house looking any kind of way because you don't put your lipstick on. Your hair looks crazy. You got to start putting your nail polish all the way on or all the way off because you just look any kind of way and you are going to need another husband. And I was like, she is such a hater, but praise God for her wisdom and insight because she knew exactly what she was talking about. And she was like, when your granddaddy left me, I gave myself exactly 48 hours to be sad. And then I told myself that's enough because my children could not thrive if their mother was sad. My children could not thrive if their mother was bitter. And my children could not thrive if their mother was angry. So I had to get myself together because my children needed me so they could thrive. And all 10 of her children, my mother and her 9 siblings, have not only bachelor's degrees, but advanced degrees. And 5 of them have PhDs, earned PhDs. So she knew what she was talking about.
Wait a minute. I heard you.
And we were marrying no degrees off the internet for $1,200 in this family. Okay.
They don't.
So I knew she had a track record of excellence as a single mother and as a woman of God. So I just reflected on that and I said, okay, 48 hours. During that time, yes, I cussed God. I was so mad. I even looked through, that was the Old Testament with Job. And then I looked through and I was like, you know what? I'm going to reflect on lessons from Christ because he made the ultimate sacrifice. And if anybody is like, this is not fair, that's definitely him because he knew no sin, right? And he was made to be sin for us because we couldn't get it right. Because, right, like God gave us the Garden of Eden, messed that up.
We messed
like,
that up.
Here's some commandments, 10 commandments. Y'all can't even follow 10 rules, right? Literally. Okay, can you just kill an animal and bring it to the temple? And nope, can't do that. Okay. He's like, so I'm going to give you all I have left. And so Jesus comes here and you looking through, he's going through the wilderness. It starts snowing. Okay. He's going through the wilderness. He's going through and you look through and even in him knowing that he's going through this, he still has a moment where he's like, it's not fair. Right?
Yeah,
where he's like,
right.
Take this cup from me.
Take this cup from me.
It's too much. It's too much. And I'm like, so it's okay for me to look up and be like, it's not fair. And I'm like, even Jesus, who knew, like, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I'm feeling like it's not fair. Right. And I'm looking and I'm like, even Jesus in that moment was like, take this cup. Like, come on, God, what are you doing? Like, I didn't even do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, right? Nevertheless. And that's what I leaned into was the nevertheless. And that's really when everything started to change for me. The nevertheless. Because
I say, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just decided that is kind of the adjoining part. There's something around the corner. Because even Jesus really, he didn't know how it was going to turn out, right? He's like, yo, I'm hoping you're going to get me up in 3 days, but I don't really know because you have all power, not me. Nevertheless, right? And so for me, I was like, oh, my husband left. Everybody's going to, I don't know how it's going to turn out. Nevertheless,
Yeah.
I'm just going to trust you. And as soon as I leaned into that, not saying every day's been perfect, but it's been a heck of a lot better because I'm leaning on nevertheless. I don't know what tomorrow is. It's not up to me to know. It's up to me to trust. And so that's really what led me to my winning season.
So there were a couple of things that you said that kind of resonated with me. People always cheer, praise, and trust when things are going well. Like when things are wonderful, oh God, you are so good. You are faithful. You never leave me. You're kind. You are all these things. But it is in the moments of the challenges when when Jesus told the disciples to get in the boat, let's go to the other side. And the storm came, right? First they had the word, we're going to go to the other side. Here comes the storm. He's on the boat asleep and they're shaking and rattled. We're about to die. He said, where's your faith? It is in those challenging moments that you are to ramp up your trust in God, not in the moments when things look well. Why do you have to trust? It looks well. You've been like you said, you've been in church all of your days. I had been in church I don't know a day that I wasn't there.
Right.
So I've been in church all my days.
Yeah.
And it was that I had to lean on in the rough times of my life, being in a home of domestic violence. Let me ask you this. Why didn't you just walk away from God? Let me lead to it. Let me lead to it because you mentioned a lot of things that the pastors have done to you, right? Like not just a husband or a father, but these are men of God that are supposed to protect you, keep you. They are the ones that a lot of people put up on a pedestal and say they should be a little bit better than the average.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What kept you from not walking away?
That's a question. And, it's a question. It's a good question. It's a question that I had to also answer for my own children, right? Because now I have children with a man who was a pastor. And I did not want them to lose their faith in God. I mean, we went through a time where, especially with my youngest, was like, I don't even think God is real. And I'm like, no, don't say that. But I had to allow her to experience that because her first introduction to Christ and to salvation was through her father, and he baptized them, so then for him to then become this other person who doesn't go to church anymore, any of those things, is like, I don't even think God is real. And I knew not to push because that's also not the love of Christ. That's also not the salvation message. It's follow, right? Jesus doesn't demand. He doesn't strong arm you. He loves. He leads by example. And if you see the love and you see the miracles and you see the salvation, you want to be compelled to come. And I said, you don't have to believe anything you don't want to believe. I've never forced anybody. I'm christen you because that's my job as a Christian mother. I'm just going to challenge you to watch the way that this household is run, because I can tell you that by myself, I can't make any of this stuff happen. So like, for instance, when they, I needed a car for my older son and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't have the money. I'm gonna have to buy it by myself. I'm just going to ask you guys to watch me pray every day. I'm going to pray every day that God is going to show me how to buy a car from Malik, that there's going to be a person who's going to work with me at a dealership because I want to make sure I'm not getting a lemon, blah, blah, blah. And before that month was over, I was driving home with my son with his new car. And my kids were like, oh my God, yes, God did this because, we don't have any extra money laying around. It's me, my single income. We get a little support from your father, but I don't have a rich family. Everything we're doing, we're praying for. And so then as she got ready for going to college, she wanted to be a D1 cheerleader. And she's like, I said, well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm just going to pray and fast. Why? Why would you pray? You don't believe it. Well, I'm just going to see. I'm like, well, I mean, you got to do you, boo, you know. And then, of course, as she's getting all these callbacks and auditions, and I'm like, oh, what's going? Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to keep praying because it's working out pretty good. Oh, I think you should. I think you should. And now she's very active in her on her own. She joined her church on her campus, her college campus, and she's a very serious ambassador for the faith and everything. And so somebody from our church, because I belong to the main campus here, and they had said one time, they said, your daughter is so on fire for the Lord. And she's, and you don't really push and anything. I said, no. I said to somebody when they asked me about, believing, I told them I've been in education for the entirety of my career. I've never had any job other than being in education, in the educational space. And I told them there are some amazing teachers and there are some horrible teachers, but you still don't take your children out of schools because you believe in education. And I said, it's the same thing with the faith. There are some amazing ambassadors for Christ, and there are some deplorable ambassadors for Christ. But we don't remove ourselves from the faith because we believe in the message of eternal life. And so we will remain here until, until God calls us home. And so it doesn't matter. I come across some, as my granddad used to call them, some jackleg preachers, and you just turn them off. You just change the channel. You just close your Bible and go to another church. Now we have options. We didn't have options of the internet, and, you could even watch TV from your phone to find another ministry that works for you. So some people are not great ambassadors for Christ, but we still believe in the gospel message. We believe that Jesus did come, that he was sent by God, and that he did give his life in exchange for ours, and that there are amazing things that can be done through us so that we can bring others to salvation. And so through my life, when I leaned into the nevertheless, I believe that God really started to take my life and began to glorify himself through me every single day. Even something as innocuous as the way I make people laugh. I get so many messages every day about people saying how they were in a dark place and, that they just felt really sad. And they're like, you even at work, I have people who are very grouchy. And as soon as they see me walk through the door, they just start busting out. I don't even say anything. I just walk through the door and they just start busting out laughing because they're like, when I see you coming, you just signal laughter and joy. And I said, that is from God because he wants us to spread his joy and his love and bring a message of peace. And so I do believe that is, no, things haven't been fair. I'm sure this is not the end. There will be other things that will occur. But I do believe that he is using me and my life and the way that I consistently trust in him to bring me out of the challenges as a way to draw others to him and to trust in him with their lives as well.
Yeah, I think we survived the challenge, not just for ourselves, but for others. Mm-hmm. That's the reason for the podcast. People will look at you. I mean, they really look at you and they're like, oh, and yes, because I'm on this side of it, but you don't know the nights I cried. Or as you said, you felt humiliated in a small town. The day he left, everybody knew.
Everybody knew.
Or I've never dealt with incest. I don't even know what your heart could feel and, with that. And all of the residual effects that come from, because I've had my own, stuff, right? Yeah. And its own residual effects. But we made it. And we've gone through the fire. Mm-hmm. And we don't smell like smoke. Don't look like smoke. That's right. But to your point, not that things have always been perfect. We've had other challenges. We'll continue to have other challenges. The Bible says many are the afflictions of the righteous. Right. But the Lord delivers us out of them all. Right. And Jesus said, he even said this, in this world, you're going to have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer. Good cheer. Now, how do you be of good cheer? But he said, be of good cheer. I think about James. James said, count it all joy when you go through count it all joy. It don't feel like joy.
Well,
But
I
it
mean,
can.
when you think about it, like I really think about it when I was going, especially when I was going through the stuff with my ex-husband, because I'm like, so now everybody's going to know. And I got to go to the grocery store. I got to go to the dentist. And they're like, oh, Mrs. McKinley. And I'm like, he left. Don't play with my face. Um, But at the same time, I thought about what my nana used to say when I'd be like, people were talking about me at school. She said, you know what? I used to tell people to talk about me too. And I would say, I must be a mighty important if you got to take time out of your day to be in my business. That's a great way. And I told my kids the same, because if you were nobody would care. And
That's
so
right.
I'm like, you know what? That's true. Because there are a lot of people out here, I don't know anything about them because I don't even know they're on the planet. So if you got time to worry about me, that's like, oh, I must be incredibly important to you that you are in my business, because otherwise you wouldn't know I was alive.
I have another thought. How did forgiveness play a role in your ability to walk in the nevertheless? How did forgiveness?
I think forgiveness, it really went back to, the nevertheless and the part going to think about Jesus. Okay. And the fact that prior to the story of Christ's crucifixion, everything has to do with revenge and retribution. Everything is about, vengeance is mine, getting back, eye for eye, tooth for the tooth, everything like that. But then when you look at everything, Jesus is coming and all of his teachings and everything like that, every single story has to do with forgiving someone else in order for God to forgive you. And so that it became so simple, right? Like, I don't have to be your best friend. I've totally forgiven my father for all the atrocities that he acted out against me. Never have access, right? Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to have access. It doesn't mean we have to be in relationship or contact or anything. It just means that I release you. I release the anger. I release the pain. I release all of those components from having any impact on my life and from that black stain being on my spirit anymore. Yeah. So I've forgiven all of these people. Now, I won't speak to half of them ever again in life. There are some I've forgiven and we've made amends and we're, in a better space. Some I've forgiven and we, forgive and forgotten, like, I don't want anything to do with you. But I mean, every single one of the scriptures in the New Testament admonishes us to forgive in order for God to forgive us. And I know that every single day I need God to forgive me for something. For sure. Mostly having to do with my mouth. So I'm like, I have to forgive people because every day I'm like, oh God, please, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't. But you didn't hear how he said it to me first, though. So because I rely so heavily on God's grace and his mercy that I really cannot afford to skip over any of the commandments when these are things that he requires from me. So that made it very easy.
And it's freedom for you, right?
Yeah.
Like for anybody that's listening, it's real easy to hold on to something someone else has done to you, betrayed you, because you were betrayed. That's what I hear.
Oh, yes.
And it's real easy for you that person, and I'm just going to hold on to it, but you're not hurting that person. You're hurting yourself. When you forgive, doesn't mean we're going to be back in the same position that we were prior to the incident. But what it says is, I won't allow you to sit in this space in my heart and on my mind and on my emotions. I won't let you continue to drive my actions and how I feel. So you can get to the nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? But you wouldn't have been able to if you kept dragging your father along with you every step that you made, every decision, and even your ex-husband, bless his heart, and we speak blessings over him.
In the name of Jesus.
Be blessed.
Be blessed.
So, if you had to, out of the 3 words, unstoppable, unbreakable, or undeniable, Which of those three words resonate with you the most? Unstoppable, unbreakable, or undeniable, and why?
I would say unbreakable. That's always the one that I think I've been using that for myself since I was a very little girl. And I think because of the abuse that I survived, just going back to being a child, the domestic violence and the incest, a lot of those things break bodies, they break minds, and they break spirits, right? And so the fact that I have not really been broken, like my body wasn't broken, right? Even to the point where I'm able to bear healthy children, right? And, to be able to go to school and earn multiple advanced degrees and have a successful career. Those are very, very important things. And I talk openly about having a traumatic brain injury. My father concussed me when I was 14. He just beat me really badly. So I do have a traumatic brain injury that I have to take medicine for every day. But there are so many people who have had TBIs that have really left them with broken brains to the point where they cannot function at all, right? So there are people who are on disability, like get $900 a month every month, and can't work because of a broken brain, or there are people who just can't do things because of a broken body or a broken spirit. So the fact that all assets of my person are fully intact, even though maybe they need some medical intervention but it's not broken, right? I'm not a broken person. I'm not a broken shell. I don't have a broken spirit. I don't even have a broken heart, right? I went through a hard time after 19 years of marriage. I'd only been with one man my entire adult life, but I don't have a broken heart. So I'm, still dating. I'm still happy. I'm still hopeful. I consider myself to be unbreakable. And
That's
I
so good.
attribute that all to God and to really leaning into his plan for my life. I don't know what it is. But he knows what it is. He created me, and I fully trust him to implement it until the day that he calls me home.
All right. So what word, give me one last thought to the person that's listening today, and they are saying, life is so unfair. What can you say to them so that they can know that they can win anyway?
I will tell them the same thing I've told myself. I think even last week, I told myself this. I told myself all the time, someone would trade lives with you. It doesn't matter how bad you think it is. Like, I came home one day last week from work. I just had a bad day at work. I felt like personal stuff that had my organizations. It was too heavy. I literally just came home and I was just sitting on my floor and I was crying because I felt so overwhelmed. And I was like, somebody would trade lives with you because you came home from work, right? You had a job. You're upset because you couldn't get an appointment with BMW, but you have a BMW, right? You're crying because you're mad because they can't get you in and they can't get you a loaner car on the day you want a loaner car. But you came into your own house. You're a single mom and you live outside of Princeton, New Jersey, and you walked into your own house, not a shelter, not a room in a family member's house, not an extended stay motel. You walked into your own house, up your own stairs, threw off your work shoes, opened a bottle of wine, and sat on your floor and cried. There are millions of people in the world who would trade lives with you right now and would love to have the problems that you have today. And I then started crying because I was like, thank you, Jesus, for all of the things that I have and all of the things you have done for me. Because if I think back to when I was 12 years old, I just wanted to sleep through the night without my father coming in my room. That was my only goal, right? And so now all these other things, they are like luxuries, right? Compared to like basic things. Or when I think to when I was 5, I wanted to not hear on the microphone, get in the free lunch line, right? Like, right? Miss Grant's class, get in the Tabitha, get in the free lunch line, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, seriously, I'd be like, could they not call the free lunch line? Just let me go get in the line. You don't have to say it on the microphone, right? So
Yeah.
you're thinking about like, or, you know, when I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to work tomorrow. And everybody knows my husband left me. Like all those things, I've already made it over all those things. So then I'm just sitting there and I'm like, God, please forgive me for being ungrateful in this moment. Please forgive me. When I think about all the other things he's already delivered me from, I mean, yeah, somebody would trade lives with me, but already he's given me an amazing life.
So much.
He's brought me so far, you know, from like, I don't have to get up on Saturday with my mother and go stand in line to get my cheese and my peanut butter and our powdered milk. My kids have never had a free lunch. My kids have never had a powdered milk or a powdered egg in their lives. They would probably throw up if they had, you know what I'm saying? Like,
these are suburban kids. I know.
yeah, these kids don't even know a powdered egg. Like, why are you putting water in the eggs? You know,
These
like
kids,
it's just ridiculous, right? Like they're living a life that I never even dreamt of. And I was sitting on the floor crying because I had a hard day at the job I prayed and begged God to give me, right? So that's the kind of stuff you just have to sit and say, thank you, God. Somebody would trade lives with me, but also I'm living the life, the exact life that I begged God to give me. And I have to be grateful.
Yes. A spirit of gratitude.
Absolutely.
And I hope as you're listening to this podcast, whether it's the Life Ain't Fair Journal or grab a notebook, go back and listen to it again, jot down these things that you've heard and those things that have resonated with you as you were listening and put them into practice. And, you know, just write these things down because Tabitha survived her story and will continue to survive because life ain't fair. It don't get fair tomorrow. It's life just not fair. And but she survived her story so that one, she can remember when the next challenge comes, she'll remember. That's how David was when he got ready to go slay Goliath. Right. He said, I remember you helped me to kill the bear. You helped me to kill the lion.
That's right.
So what is this? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine to me? Nobody, because God had a proven track record. He's had a proven track record in Tabitha's life, but I promise you, he's had a proven track record in your life too. The enemy, that's his way of deceiving us, right? To focus on the things that are not going well with us. Focus on the things that are unfair. Focus on the things that look like somebody else and you wish it. All those things. No, take a moment and think about all the things that God has brought you from. And then you'll continue to see your wins and you'll continue to win. So I got some things from you, Tab. You said trust. I heard you say trust. Just thinking about trusting in God, that you're nevertheless, no matter what I'm going through, Lord, I will still trust you in this. Prayer. I heard you say that. A life of prayer, that no matter what, I'm going to pray and trust you and believe you. I heard you say forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to operate in forgiveness and then gratitude. Just remembering somebody wish they were you.
Yes.
That's true.
All the time.
That's real.
Yeah.
It's real. So Tabitha, how can anyone get in touch with you? You mentioned your books, so how can they get your books? And how can they get in touch with you if they need to?
Sure. The books are on Amazon. It's just under my name, Tabitha Bellamy. Daily Devotionals for Survivors of Sexual Abuse. That book has been out since 2011. And then the latest one is called God's Gonna Make Me Rich. That's also on Amazon. It's been out since 2025. And then what's my email address? Dr. Tabitha Bellamy@gmail.com.
Can they follow you anywhere? Do you want
you can follow me on my Instagram is just PhD mommy. Oh wait, it's kind of crazy, but it's fun. And always remember, life is not fair. A fair is a place where you go ride carnival rides and you eat corn dogs and fried Oreos. Life is life.
Life ain't
To
fair.
tell my kids, they'd be like, "It's not fair." That's right. The fair is where you go ride these pop-up rides and you eat corn dogs and eat fried Oreos. This is life, honey. And it ain't
Life,
fair.
life.
It ain't no prizes here. Go clean your room.
Well, Dr. Tab, I surely appreciate you. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Absolutely.
Kicking off the podcast, Life Ain't Fair Win. Anyway, hey, everybody, if this podcast has been a blessing to you, if you've enjoyed it, first of all, please make sure you go follow Tab, but make sure you follow me at everything, all things TJ Everhart. Go to YouTube. This will be posted on there. Subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you will see the podcast when the episodes drop weekly on Thursday evenings. You should listen to this anywhere when you stream podcasts. And yeah, remember, life ain't fair, but you can win anyway. So thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Unbreakable, undeniable. We're unstoppable. Oh, you know we are. Life ain't fair, but we win. Amen.